What is up, Bills Mafia? It has been a while. I haven't been back on the live in a long time, but it's good to be back. Feels great to be back. Hope everybody is doing well. Uh, I hope everybody enjoyed the offseason as much as I have with the new additions of some great players who I cannot wait to contribute to this team. Players such as Von Miller and Jamison Crowder, players like that who you know you're going to get big things out of. And with the draft passing, I mean, players like Kyer Elam, who's going to be stepping in and making some big plays, getting some interceptions for the Bills. Today, we're going to be previewing the state of the Bills roster. We are going to start off with the area that I am most concerned with, the depth wise on the roster, and we will begin with that. Work our way down towards the position that I am least concerned with. But without further ado, we will begin with this series. After we start this, we finish this up, we will talk about the training camp, what's going on in training camp, the injuries, as well as players who have done a very good job and players who might need to step up their game because you don't really know what's going to be happening with them. Could they be cut or something like that? You never know. So without further ado, let's begin. Today we're going to talk about the linebacking position. Let's start off with the starters. So to begin, you know the two starters who have been the starters for the past 4 years, Tremaine Edmonds and Matt Milano, are returning. So you know what you're getting out of them. Let's talk about some of the subtractions that we've had over the past offseason. We're missing AJ Klein, who is one of the only losses that we have, and we've brought in a couple of other players such as Terrell Bernard and Baylen Specter in the draft, and we brought back Markel Lee, who is a special teams player, played for the Bills, was part of training camp last year, and he is going to be coming back, and we'll see where things go with him. But let's start with the starters. Tremaine Edmonds, Matt Milano. Edmonds is a two-time Pro Bowler, 4-year starter for the Bills. He's only 24 years old and is in a contract year with the Bills. He has registered over 450 tackles and looks to have hopefully a prove-it year. You don't know what you're going to see from him. Has been a little bit inconsistent, and hopefully we can get back to the Tremaine Edmonds that can have a big year, big contract year, and make some big plays. He did play last year in 81% of the defensive snaps, so that's a great number. I expect that to be right around the same amount this year, and he's only missed 2 games in his career. So you know that he's going to be on the field a lot. You know he's staying healthy. You know what you're going to get out of him, but can he take it to the next level? This offseason in minicamp and in OTAs, you saw Luke Kuechly, who previously played for Sean McDermott's defense in Carolina, came in. He's recently retired, had to retire due to some injuries, so had to retire because of concussions. And he came in, worked with Edmonds, Milano, and the rest of the linebackers, and we'll see where things go. He did the same last year. And hopefully Edmonds can hit the ball running and make some big plays for us. Areas of concerns that I have with Edmonds is he's not really sure where to be at the right time. While I do think that this might have something to do with the defensive line, he's just not making the right decision at the right time. And he does give up a little bit of space in coverage, which is my concern. But he's an excellent tackler, makes big plays, and he's a very good contributor for this team. Has a ton of knowledge, and is the leader of the defense. One of the leaders that we have on the defense. As far as Milano has missed 10 games in his career with the Bills. He is entering the second year of a 4-year, $41.5 million contract. He has played right alongside Edmonds in the past 4 years, and he's played at a Pro Bowl level every single year. couple of years where he's made had some injuries and wasn't able to finish out the year, but he probably would be a Pro Bowl player. And you know that you're going to get a very high quality player in Milano and Edmonds. Both players relatively don't come off the field playing 80-85% as a defensive snaps. I expect that number to be about the same. You know, Sean McDermott rolls with a 4-2 linebacking core, playing the other linebacker at nickel. So they play the big nickel type of look, with Taron Johnson being the quote-unquote third linebacker. But areas that we could be concerned about is what happens if one of these two players gets hurt. Now, who will step up in their place? You don't really know. After Tremaine Edmonds and Matt Milano, you have relatively unproven players. You have players such as Tyrel Dodson, Terrell Bernard, Baylen Specter, Markel Lee, Tyler Matakevich, Andre Smith, players like that, and even Giles Harris, who was on the practice squad last year. But what happens if one of them gets injured? Who would be the next player in line? Based off of the roster and based off of the depth chart, it looks like it's going to be Tyrel Dodson. Dodson is a 4-year player who has combined for 37 tackles in his career and 1 sack. Dodson is a bit of an unproven player and would probably be a downgrade over Edmonds and Milano. But on the other hand, he has stepped in for Edmonds and Milano when they both were injured. He did play last year for Edmonds a little bit when Edmonds was injured, and he did play for Milano in Milano's position. So he does have some versatility to him, can play both positions, and will maybe he can get a little more experience. He has been on the team for the past 4 years, so he is watching what Milano and Edmonds do. But can he get on the field and make some plays? That's a question we don't know of. As far as the next player, who I believe is going to be the 4th linebacker, Terrell Bernard, who was drafted from Baylor University. He's a bit of an undersized linebacker at 224 pounds, but he does have some amazing speed, which helped boost him in the draft. But the biggest question is, will Buffalo play him in 4-3 sets? That's a question you don't know. And can you trust him to go up against tight ends and offensive linemen? Again, we don't know. As far as do the Bills trust him in 4-3 sets, the Bills only played a 4-3 set in 5.7% of the defensive snaps. Mostly they did this against the New England Patriots. But we are going to be going against some really good running backs this year again. And can Buffalo adjust to the big run games? You don't know. But we did make some big adjustments. We did sign some defensive tackles, and hopefully we can solve the run game. But what if it doesn't work out? What if it's like last year where we couldn't stop the run and we have to play the 4-3 set? Do you trust Bernard to come in as a rookie and contribute, make some big plays? Or do you rely on a linebacker who has some experience and is a veteran? Another linebacker that the Bills drafted this past draft, Baylen Specter. He is a 5-year player for Clemson University, drafted in the 7th round by the Bills, and has a ton of starting experience, playing 53 games in his career at Clemson, making 10 starts the past 2 seasons. He does have a ton of stats in his college career: 210 tackles, 22 tackles for loss, 9 sacks, 4 forced fumbles, and 1 interception. So you know he's making some big plays, but can that contribute to coming to the next level? You know, the NFL is a league that I call not for long. You never know if he can make plays in the NFL, but these are just stats that you see in college football. You know, can come down to the next league? You know, can you make big plays? Can you help your team win at the right moment and make the big plays? You don't know. But over the past 23 games, this is a stat that's really, really good to hear. He does have 15 tackles for loss and 7 sacks over the past 23 games. So can you take that to the next level? Hopefully get a couple sacks this year. I'd love to see that. And make some tackles for loss. Another player that the Bills have on the roster who is further down on the depth chart, as far as I'm concerned, is Andre Smith. Andre Smith is a player who is an excellent player on special teams, but the problem is, will he be on the field? Why he won't be on the field is because he has a 6-game suspension for PEDs, and he will be missing the first 6 games, and that puts him down on the roster. While I believe he will make the roster coming in out of training camp, it's a good question whether he will. I mean, will these rookies contribute right away, and will they learn the defense, make big plays, and maybe push Andre Smith off the roster? You don't know. These are linebackers that do have a ton of speed, and maybe McDermott's looking for linebackers to have more speed. You did hear him talk about in the offseason that the Bills do want to upgrade and get faster and a little quicker. That's one thing that McDermott was saying that he wanted to do. You never know. Maybe they do cut ties with a special teams player so that they can't get the speed that they need. Another player that the Bills have that contributes a lot on the special teams, probably will make the roster, and but does have a high contract, is Tyler Matakevich. Matakevich was tied last year for 9th in the NFL in special teams tackles with 13. Could there be a surprise cut for him? Maybe. But on the other hand, Andre Smith's going to be missing 6 games with the suspension, and he does have a contract where it's not too high. It's only $3.25 million. But could the Bills save $2.5 million if he's released? They can. That puts him at right around $7.5 million and might entice them to get another linebacker in free agency. Another linebacker that the Bills have on the roster, Giles Harris. Harris didn't really play. He was more of the practice squad player last year. He did play a little bit on special teams, as have all of these other players played on special teams. The Bills do roll with Milano and Edmonds, so these are players that are the special teams players. He did play in 2 games last year, totaling 2 tackles on special teams, but you don't know what you're going to see. Will he make the roster? Is highly unlikely, but you never know. I do expect that he will be signing that the Bills do want to keep, because he does have some experience playing with the Jaguars, mostly on special teams, but he's a big contributor, and he was on a practice squad player last year, and who knows, he might be a practice squad player this year. Another player that the Bills have, the last player as far as linebackers, the Bills did have him last year, and he's coming back again for another year. His second time with the Bills again is Markel Lee. Lee is a 5th-round draft pick out of with the Raiders, and did start 16 games over the first 2 seasons of his career, totaling 93 tackles, 5 tackles for loss, 3 passes defense during that stretch. But the biggest concern with Lee, why he didn't stick around with the Raiders, is because he couldn't stay healthy. While the NFL is a league where you need to contribute, you need to be available for your team, the biggest phrase that you hear is, the best ability for a player is their availability. You hear that all the time from coaches. The best ability is your availability. You have to be available to contribute for your team. If you're not available, then sorry, you might lose a roster spot. Look what happened to Drew Bledsoe. Bledsoe got hurt. And what happened? Tom Brady stepped in. Brady had a 20-year career, and Brady is going to be a sure ballot Hall of Famer. I don't think that Markel Lee is in the same situation where there's a player that came in and took his spot and became a Hall of Fame player, but another player came into the league, made some plays, and Lee lost his spot on the roster. And then he ended up coming to the Bills, was in the training camp for the Bills last year, got cut, came back to the Raiders, played for the Raiders again, playing 80% of the special team snaps, and the Bills ended up signing him again in the offseason. So you never know what happens. The Bills must like him, so they keep bringing him around, so they must like him. does have a little bit of experience. So maybe if things go well and he does show a really, really good training camp and preseason, maybe he does slide into the third linebacking position. But who knows? Well, I believe that this is an area that the Bills could look to upgrade. And if I was Brandon Beane, I probably would upgrade. These are players that don't have a lot of experience in training camp, as well as the preseason will determine whether we do roll with another linebacker. I do think that this, if I was Brandon Beane, this is one of the areas that I would be focusing on very, very carefully, making sure that I'm okay with the linebackers that we do have on the roster. As far as linebackers that we aren't bringing back, AJ Klein is the linebacker that we didn't bring back. We did return mostly every single one of our linebackers that was on the roster last year. AJ Klein's the only one that we didn't. We did release him. He did have a higher salary, I believe about $5 million. So we did save a little bit of money so that we could sign free agents like Von Miller and Jamison Crowder, players like that, so that they contribute and be on the field as much as possible. But, will the Bills sign another linebacker? Another guy that's out there still, AJ Klein, possibly could bring him back and sign him for a cheaper deal towards the end of training camp. But who knows, maybe Beane's happy with what he sees and McDermott's happy with what they see. And they don't want to spend a lot of money on a third linebacker who isn't going to really contribute on the field as much. You never know. Now, let's jump to training camp and talk about training camp a little bit. Let's start off with the injuries that have happened in training camp. A couple of players that have been injured. Davius White, as we expected, starts training camp on the injured list, the PUP list. Roger Saffold is out, and I don't believe he's on the PUP list, but he is out with some rib injuries that he had in a car accident. So my thoughts and prayers are with him. Hopefully we can get both of those players back. Another player that was out today, this is day 3 of training camp, is Jake Kumaro. Kumaro is dealing with some soreness. He was out today, as well as Jamison Crowder, injured as well with a little bit of soreness as well. So hopefully we can get those players back. I know that Kumaro is a really big special teams contributor for the Bills, the gunner type, and has a lot of height. So hopefully we can get him back, and hopefully we can get Jamison Crowder back. In his absence for Crowder, it is hurting him a little bit because Isaiah McKenzie is coming in and taking those slot reps. So he is losing a little bit of ground, and so is Khalil Shakur. Shakur is the wide receiver that is coming in, making some plays. 5th-round pick out of Boise State, coming in and contributing, mostly with the second team. So we'll see what goes on there. But it is hurting Crowder being injured. Again, your best ability is your availability. Other areas of concern, I don't think there's anybody else that's injured. I have been at training camp the past couple of days, so I will talk to you about what's going on in training camp, what my highs and lows for training camp, as far as guys that I think are making big plays. Some guys that I think have really, really stepped up and made some big plays. We'll start with the biggest one, the big splash of the offseason, Von Miller. Miller looks like he's ready to go. He really does. I don't think there's any offseason that he doesn't look like he's ready to go based off of the quarterback summit. The summit that he has. He is in incredible shape. Looks like he's ready to go. One thing I did see out of him was he had a Sherby sack on Josh Allen. He did have to slide down and get away from Allen. Did make a little bit of contact with Allen, which was a little bit of a concern for me. I know it wasn't meant to happen. I know it was, something that he didn't mean to do, but it's an area of concern. You don't want to get your quarterback injured. Other players that have made some big plays, Tim Settle making the play of the day on day 1 of training camp. He had an interception off of a Josh Allen pass, ball that was tipped to him, brought back in, and he looked like Sam Adams back in the day, against the New England Patriots running down the field. The big man can run. That was Tim Settle that made that play. Big play for him. And had to sure be a 20-yard interception return for a touchdown. Another player that's making some big plays is Nick McLeod. Nick McLeod. Yes, Nick McLeod. Making some big plays, having 2 interceptions against Josh Allen, and looks like he is having a very, very good start to training camp. The defensive linemen that are making big plays is Jordan Phillips making some big plays. He looks like he's ready to go, and all I hear is good things out of him. On the offensive side of the ball, hearing big things out of Stephon Diggs, as you expect. He is the superstar of the team. So you do expect big things out of him. He is going up against the rookie and first-round pick, Kaiir Elam. So hopefully that will help Elam. Iron sharpens iron, and the iron that Stephon Diggs has is, he's probably the best wide receiver in the game right now. You could argue it's Cooper Kupp, or you could argue it's Stephon Diggs. You could argue a couple other players in there, Devontae Adams as well, as being probably the best players in the league. But in my opinion, Stephon Diggs coming into a team and making the big impact, I think that he's the best receiver in the game. And I think he's going to have big things coming for him this year. I think he's going to be even better than he was in year 1 for the Bills and have a bigger year than he had last year. Other players, James Cook, another rookie, second-round pick for the Bills. Doing some really good things. Another player that not a lot have heard of, but showed me a lot is Jalen Weidemeyer, a player that a tight end that we have on the roster. One thing I did see from him is after practice is over, and the guys are tired and everything else, they want to go inside. You're hearing from Josh Allen at it's Turkey Burgers time. That's the biggest thing going around. They call it TBT, Turkey Burger time. Is concerned coming in, and he stayed out in practice for another 30 minutes after practice. That shows me that he's ready to do whatever he can to contribute to this team. He is a player that I am excited about, and I like what I see out of him. That's a really good sign, and I know the coaches will love that. Other players that I am hearing about on the offense, Khalil Shakur, like I said, making some big plays. Possibly could be in line for the slot position, but he's going to have to battle Jamison Crowder and Isaiah McKenzie. So he does have an uphill battle to climb, but we'll see where things go with him. Players that I'm not really hearing a lot about as far as making plays, it's early in camp. Don't get me wrong, but Shaq Lawson, not really hearing much from him. But everybody else, hearing good things from everybody. Excuse me for 1 second. One player that did have some inconsistency over the last 3 days, and we do have very, very high expectations for Josh Allen. He did have a couple of interceptions in practices. While this isn't really an area of concern, he's trying to get some chemistry with some of the other receivers. You don't want to contribute into the regular season. So hopefully we can get back on the right track and get some, the chemistry back going. One thing I did see from Allen that I did like, though, however, is I did see him going over to players such as Stephon Diggs and Dawson Knox, O.J. Howard, a couple of other players, Jake Kumaro, when he was healthy, going over to them, talking to them about where the ball will be placed. I think it was more of that. Don't get me wrong. And where the ball should be placed, where they should break, stuff like that. Talking to them about, just getting on the same page and gelling. That's one thing I did really like about that. Another thing I did see was Tre'Davious White I did post about it on my Instagram page. As for those of you who don't follow me, please go back over to that page, Go Bills Podcast, and give us a follow. We would greatly appreciate it. We did post about it, and Tre'Davious White is seen doing some agility work on the sidelines with the trainers. Hopefully, we can get him back in shape and get him back as soon as possible. While the video that you do see is encouraging news, I have to tell you guys, what you don't see in this video is you don't see him going into cutting and breaking and stuff like that, which I do think is going to come into play very, very soon. He is coming off of an ACL injury. It's an area of concern. It's, will be a year in November, late November. So, can he get the cuts and breaks and stuff like that? The normal defensive back will be able to do. He is starting off camp on the PUP list, physically unable to perform, if you don't know what that means, which the Bills will have until August 23rd to make a decision on whether he will make the active roster or not. While I don't think he will make the active roster based off of my personal opinion and the coaches being probably cautious, as well as trainers being cautious with him and not rushing him back, getting him injured again, because he is a very, very big contributor on defense. This video is very, very good and encouraging news for Tre'Davious, and hopefully we can get him back sooner than later, because I really would like to see him contribute on defense. Other than that, other players that I think will be in positions where they could potentially have some battles coming their way. Like I said, Jamison Crowder has some battles coming his way with Isaiah McKenzie and Khalil Shakur. I think it's going to be McKenzie's job to lose, to be honest with you, based off of what I'm seeing and based off of McKenzie having the experience over Crowder. Other players that have some battles, I think it's going to be a big battle for the number 2 cornerback position if Tre'Davious White is injured or comes back and is healthy. You don't know if is it going to be Kyrie Elam or is it going to be Dane Jackson. That's a battle to watch. Other battles I'm really looking forward to, which nobody's really talking about, even though I do think the edge is going to go to Case Keenum, is the battle for the second quarterback position. I think that's going to be a big battle. While I do think that Case Keenum does have the edge, Case Keenum versus Matt Barkley is an interesting battle to watch in the preseason. You're not going to be seeing a lot of Josh Allen, as you want to keep the franchise, as I call him, the superstar, the franchise, the $250 million man, healthy as much as possible. It's going to be a battle between Case Keenum and Matt Barkley as to who's going to be the backup behind Josh Allen. Another battle I'm excited about is who will be the 4th running back. Will it be Tywan Jones? Will it be possibly Duke Johnson, or will it be another rookie? I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but will be the rookie. You don't know. Who knows? These are all battles that we will look forward to in training camp and battles that we will be talking about in the near future. We will have another series coming up as far as another area of concern. We'll work on the areas of concern and work on the position that I think is set in stone, as far as these are the players that are going to be rolling with on the roster, and I'm happy with them and I'm excited with them. But we'll work our way from the area that I'm most concerned with, which is now the linebackers position. And later in the week, we will talk about another position. I won't tell you which one it is. I'm going to keep it a big secret. I want to keep it as much of a secret as possible, because I want you guys to enjoy this content. But this is going to be a fun series. I'm excited about it. I'm excited for training camp and to be back with you guys as much as possible. I'm going to be posting a lot more than I did last year. I'm going to be live as more than ever, and I'm excited about that. So if this is your first time watching us, please like, subscribe, follow us. Or if you guys are returning, like, subscribe, follow us, hit the notification bell. Keep us in your notifications so that we can get you the best content on the internet. Well, this is going to be a very fun time. I do appreciate every single one of you guys, and for everybody that's been there since day one. Thank you so much. And as always, go Bills. This is Brett with Go Bills Podcast, and we will see you next time.